For the past 24 years, Putin has been ruling Russia since 1999.
Vladimir Putin, 17 years and the most powerful man in the world.
As president of Russia, this man has dealt with 37 NATO countries. 9th August 1999, he was appointed prime minister by President Boris Yeltsin. By this time, nobody knows the man called Putin. 1 month after announcing Putin as prime minister, a massive bomb blast in an apartment building, killing more than 100 people. 4 days after, another apartment bombing, killing 119 people. Speaker of the Parliament paid a tribute to the citizens who lost their life. Another car bombing. Things were getting worse. Russia is under attack. The way the new elected prime minister handled this bombing from triggering another crisis boosted his popularity in Russia. Few months later, he was elected president by a grateful Russian nation. Since taking power, he has not let go. Or can we say Russia don't want to let him go? Which can we say? To the West, he is dangerous. To some Russia, he is so important. Who is Vladimir Putin? Why the hate on him? Why all this sanction on Russia under his government? Putin was born 7 October 1952 in Leningrad during the Soviet Union, now St. Petersburg, the youngest of three. Putin's mother was a factory worker, his father was a naval officer. At an early age, Putin showed interest in joining the KGB, which was a Soviet secret service, but they told him no because he was too young. He was only 16 then, but after graduating from law school in 1975, Putin finally joined the KGB. In September 1984, Putin was sent to Moscow for further training on how to be a better spy. After graduating on how to be a better spy from Moscow, the Secret Service now sent him to East Germany, where he served from 1985 to 1990. His job at East Germany was a translator, but that is just a cover-up from the KGB. His main job is to create a working relationship between the Soviet Union and other countries for mutual benefit in East Germany. During this time, East Germany was so rich with Cold War information. This was Putin's office in East Germany. In East Germany, he recruited many communist parties, traveled undercover to West Germany, including stealing Western technology and knowledge. After the collapse of the communist East German government, Putin was to resign from active KGB service. But during this time, he has already spent 5 years in East Germany. He now returned to Russia. When the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, with a lot of economic crisis, then he finally quit the KGB after working for 16 years to go work with one of his professors. When he was working in the University of Leningrad, he was also recruiting new KGB officers. May 1990, Putin was appointed as an advisor on international affairs to the mayor of Leningrad. August 1999, Putin was appointed acting prime minister by President Boris Yeltsin. President Boris Yeltsin also announced that day that he wanted to see Putin as his successor. Everything was happening so quick. Then nobody really knew the man called Putin, but Putin agreed to run for presidency. Russia runs a democratic system of government. The president cannot just appoint someone he wants to be president. They really need to vote for him. That's where the bombing in the start of this video comes to play. After naming Putin acting prime minister, few weeks later, a truck blew up at Bunax. Day after, another apartment bombing in Moscow. The FSB, the internal security agent that have been run by Putin, did an investigation, traced TNT and another explosive substance. Government officials started blaming Chechen terrorists in neighboring country who share border with Russia. After the bomb in Bunax, Moscow, then another massive car bomb that destroyed 9-story building. The whole city was in chaos. In East Moscow, residents noticed a suspicious movement when a car parked started removing bags from the boot to the basement, so they called the police. When the police arrived, they saw the bag wired to a timer. They defused the bomb and sent it for testing. When Putin arrived at the scene, he congratulated the locals for being vigilant and rewarded the security service for their hard work, else there could be another deadly attack. That same evening, police finally arrested the men behind the bag of bomb. Police were surprised to see that these men possessed FSB ID card, the internal secret service that Putin was in charge of before becoming prime minister. Hours after, these men were released because a call came from the Director General of the FSB. The next morning, the director of the FSB appeared on national TV, but this time the story has changed. The director said it was a training exercise to test public awareness on terrorism, that the bags in the apartment did not contain bomb, it's just a bag of sugar. A lot of people believe that the FFB was trying to swipe up this case out of the public eye. Things was going very well, until a local branch of the SSB carried out their own test on this bag, which shows that this bag contained IDS, which is the substance found in other apartment bombing. This substance is not something you can get anywhere in the market. It is only in one place you can get it in the whole of Russia, and it is heavily guided, 100 miles from the city of Chechen. The Russian intelligence pinned these attacks on Chechen terrorists. Chechen terrorists was pushing towards Russian border. The Russian military quickly mobilized. This led to Second Chechen War. With all this going on, people were scared. Putin said he would take care of the chaos. With him, order will be restored for good in the country. Putin's tough action make him a national hero, putting Russia's interest first among everything. After this bombing, Putin's presidential approval rating rise from 2% before the bombing to 45% after the bombing.
Он сможет сплотить вокруг себя тех, кому в новом 21 веке предстоит обновлять великую Россию.
26 March 2000, Putin was elected president with 53% vote. A lot of journalists and investigators who have tried to investigate this apartment bombing either ended up dead or never published their findings. In 2023, Alex Venego, a former KGB officer, will go public with his allegation that President Putin have a hand in the apartment bombing. Venego ended up dead in London, poisoned by 2 Russian intelligence officers. Many media believe that the government have a hand to do with the attacks.
Over media was one of the first things that he did, and also the lack of genuine opposition, because his critics either have been in exile or dead or are facing prosecution.
2008, he stepped down as president when the second term finished. Because the Russian constitution, you can only be president 2 times. The new elected president appoints him as prime minister. Anytime the new elected president, Medvedev, wants to take critical decision, he always asks Putin for advice. Putin was still in control of the government. He always had a say in this government. Medvedev government, a lot of people believe that Medvedev government was too weak. In 2012, Putin was re-elected president with high vote count. In 2021, Putin signed into law extension of time limit a president can serve. With this new law, Putin have 2 more chances to run as president that will put him in power till 2036. Ruling Russia is not an easy job. Some people believe that Russia needs Putin. What you always hear about Putin is the bad side. They don't talk about how he has developed Russian economy and making Russia powerful once again after the fall of the Soviet Union. During the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia lost some of its territory, over 2 million square miles. For Putin, this was a major geopolitical disaster of the century. He decided to rebuild Russia back to become a powerhouse among its neighbors. Russian economy was at free fall. The wealth of the people was at the hand of few extremely wealthy people in Russia, including companies that was built by the communist regime, was controlled by few wealthy individuals known today as the Russian oligarchs. Inequality worsened after the fall of the Soviet Union. Putin have a serious job to do to bring back Russia to its glory. President Boris Yeltsin, the man who made Putin acting prime minister in 1999, was accused of being a US puppet. A lot of people believe that President Boris Yeltsin was letting the US dominate Russia. By this time, NATO too was also expanding their influence to former Soviet Union countries.
We have to finish what America started 4 years ago, welcoming Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic into our alliance. If you look around at who's in the room today, you can see that they are more than willing.
Putin really needs to act fast before Russia too will be dominated by the West and controlled by the United States. In 2002, his main goal was to build a stronger Russian state. So Putin quickly suppressed this Russian oligarchs under his rule, including corrupt politicians. Putin was also growing the economy. The US invasion on Iran was the reason that led to massive increase in price of oil and gas. From 2003 to 2008, the price of crude oil increased from $30 to almost $150 per barrel. Russian GDP grew massively. Disposable income doubled. With over 16,000 sanctions on Russia by the West because they invaded Ukraine, Russia have high income economy. The Russian economy is still doing well, according to the World Bank in 2024. Putin was also making Russia proud, developing their economy, strengthening their military, and also securing Russia's interests abroad. With great victory in Russia, Putin started pushing his vision outside Russia. During this time, he has a great relationship with the US. He even took a vacation in President George W. Bush's summer house.
I'll answer the question. I looked the man in the eye. I found it to be very straightforward. I was able to get a sense of his soul.
But things was about to change. In 2008, Russia invaded Georgia. During this invasion, Putin was not around, but the US started seeing Putin differently. The hate started. Putin doesn't support LGBT. In 2012, he cracked down on human rights activists promoting LGBT.
And the loudest such performance was the so-called punk prayer at the Christ the Savior Cathedral, where they were yelling things which were rather profane to be yelled in church. Of course, 3 members of punk group were convicted and sentenced to 2 years in prison.
This LGBT group are among those spreading the hate, including the West, about Putin, about human rights abuse, because Putin believes in the Russian Orthodox Church that LGBT is against the family goal. What you see in the media sometimes is not what it is. For example, Putin invading Ukraine in 2014. Ukraine was a former Soviet country before the fall of the Soviet Union. The Ukraine president was opening up to the West. With such move, he may likely join NATO. Joining NATO is a problem for Russia because the US can come and build their military base, and Ukraine share a border with Russia. Building a military base close to Russia, which is in Ukraine, they can easily launch an attack on Russia anytime they want. That will be the fall of Russia. Let's take for example, Israel is invading Palestine. The report from the Western media is different compared to what you hear about Putin invading Ukraine.
Civilians executed in cold blood, bodies dumped into mass graves. There's nothing less happening than major war crimes. Responsible nations have to come together to hold these perpetrators accountable. I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging a war.
As Russia is deliberately leading targeted attacks on civilian infrastructure with a very clear aim to cut off men, women, and children of water, electricity, and heating as the winter is approaching. These are pure acts of terror. Europe stands with Israel in this dark moment. This is the essential starting point.
Putin was launching indiscriminate attacks on civilians in Ukraine.
I'm proud to stand here with you in Israel's darkest hour. As your friend, we will stand with you in solidarity, we will stand with your people, and we also want you to win.
Russia invasion of Ukraine. This has brought Russia so many sanctions by the West. All this is to bring Russian economy down. But Putin always finds a way out. He now turned to China for a trade deal, since the West is banning Russian business. With a lot of sanctions by the West, Putin have proven to Russia that they have the ability to provide itself with natural resources. While inflation is high, Russian stores remain full and unemployment rates remain low in Russia. In 2024, the IMF did a forecast lowering Russian economic growth. But compare that forecast to countries like Canada, Italy, and the United Kingdom. Russian economy is still doing well than those countries. Vladimir Putin understands how Western propaganda works because he was a former KGB officer. So he's not giving the West any opportunity to invade Russia through Western media propaganda.